coloring outside the lines. Casey's black eyes were full of anger as he wailed at the top of his little 3-year-old voice, "Mom, she's wrecking my coloring book." Poor kid was shaking with frustration, his black curls quivering around his forehead, somewhat damp from a slight fever. My mother had just gone back to work after giving birth to my sister 6 weeks earlier, so this morning found me at the neighbor's house instead of a nursery school due to my cold. Since both Casey and I were sick, the moms figured it would do no harm for us to spend the day together. We lay on the floor of his bedroom on our tummies, heads bowed over opposite pages of the coloring book. We both had a little cold and were supposed to be playing quietly. Of course, ever the disruptor, I managed to cause a ruckus. Casey's mom came storming in, demanding to know what was causing all the commotion. She had the same black eyes and curly black hair as her son and was flashing the former and shaking the latter as she tried to assess the situation in a split second, the way most parents do when they're called to the scene of warring children. It didn't take her long to realize that I was the aggressor in the skirmish. One look at the coloring book pages told the story. Casey's page was taking shape as he carefully filled in the spaces between the thick black key lines with that most hallowed of all crayon colors, periwinkle. His little toddler hands were doing a remarkable job of keeping the color contained, as it obviously should be, between the lines. My page, on the other hand, looked like a crime scene photo. My red crayon had entirely disregarded the lines and slashed around the page like a serial killer taking pleasure in her next victim. Casey's mom grabbed me by the arm and dragged me out of the room, saying something about nap time. She plunked me on a sleeping bag on the living room floor, covered in impossibly long shag carpet, which she groomed daily with a rake. We proceeded to watch As the World Turns in relatively companionable silence. That living room was a vision in avocado green and harvest gold, the walls clad in dark fake wood paneling. Casey's mom stretched out in her black Naugahyde recliner, ribs neatly repaired with electrical tape, and continued to knit a Barbie-sized mohair evening dress destined to be a Christmas present for one of her girls. First one soap opera, then the next, was punctuated with every few minutes with commercials informing us that things go better with Coke, America runs on Bullivatime, and Winston tastes good like a cigarette should. Although I was a problem child, Casey's mom tended to cut me a lot of slack. Maybe she herself had been a problem child and understood the challenges. She never rushed me out the door with an unwelcoming frown and directions to go straight home. She never called my parents to complain about my behavior, as confusing as it often was. She never asked me why I had scribbled all over the image of Snow White in red crayon. I wonder if things would have been different for me if she had. And if I'd had the vocabulary to explain to her that lines did not make sense to me. Whenever I tried to constrain my crayon to the interior of a cartoon space, my hand wouldn't cooperate. The lines seemed mocking, daring me not to cross them. So, cross them I did. And what was first just a page in a Disney coloring book became the theme for my entire life. If only Casey's mom had told me that some people are born to color inside the lines and others, many, many fewer in the grand scheme of things, were born to disregard them, or more pointedly, see them as a challenge to overcome. If she'd handed me a red crayon and Casey's least cherished coloring book and said, "Have at it, kid," I wonder if I would have started my journey to self-awareness, to self-acceptance, decades earlier than I did. Thanks to the magic of Facebook, I reconnected with Casey a few years ago. I sent him a message saying that he probably wouldn't remember me, but that I've been thinking about our childhood and the neighborhood we grew up in. I shared some memories and he shared some back. I asked about his sister Linda, who'd been my best friend during the years I lived 3 doors down. Linda sadly passed away a while ago, But his other two sisters, Kathy and Pam, are both alive and presumably well. When I started writing these essays, I sent several to Casey. I was surprised at how touched he was. He said that he didn't have any photos from his childhood, but my stories recalled memories of times and people long forgotten. I found a photo of Linda and me sitting on my parents' front lawn, and so I sent that to him. I also told him that if he ever felt like coloring, message me and I would come right over. This time, I would be very careful, going against my nature, and color inside the lines.